Hey guys, it's me, Whirl. Welcome back to my channel where my hair gets weirder every time I film. Anyways, I'm here. I'm back again with my wrap up for November. This wasn't a very big reading month for me. I did listen to a lot of audiobooks though, so I'll talk about those too. First, I'll get to the physical books I read this month. I'm not gonna run, I usually like to do like a stats thing, but it's not very fun when you've only read 4 books. So I didn't even do that today. Also, like, I usually do that before the video, and I didn't even think about that until I had already sat down and turned my camera on. So no stats this month, but I will tell you about the books I read. The first one I finished this month was a carryover from October. This was The Chrysalis by Brendan Deneen. And this was kind of like a horror sci-fi thriller kind of, and it's about a couple. They're very much like into the city life. They live in a big metropolis, but their lease in their apartment is over and the rent is getting jacked up. So they decide instead to look for a home in the suburbs, and they find one, and it is gorgeous, old, weird, just kind of house I like. And they're kind of baffled by the price because it seems way too good to be true. And as we all know, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And that is very much the case with their house, because a woman murdered her husband and went insane. And that's why the price is so low. And as they're moving their stuff in, the husband pulls back this old refrigerator in the basement and finds this thing attached to the wall. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. I thought it was really fun. It was engaging. It was pretty fast paced. The idea was really interesting, I thought. And yeah, if you're looking for something fun and relatively quick, I would definitely recommend this one. Next, I read the second book in the Dexter series by Jeff Lindsay. This one is Dearly Devoted Dexter. My cat is screaming. So being that this is the second book in a series, I can't give you a very good synopsis, but you know, it continues on with Dexter's life. He's trying to decide if he's ready for a more domestic life. It was still so much fun. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I just, like I said in my last wrap up when I reread the first book, he's very charming and funny, and these books are just good fun, kind of like The Chrysalis, but maybe even more fun than The Chrysalis. So I would definitely recommend this series for people, even if you watched the TV series. The book series so far has been much different, so I think you get something new out of the book series as well. Now on to the book that I know I'm going to be talking the most about in this wrap-up video. This is Bully by Jim Schutze. Schutze? I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Oh my god. This story is one of the most bananas true crime stories I've ever read or heard about in any capacity. This is about, oh my god, where do I even fucking start with this? It's about these kids in Florida. They're like young adults, like 18, like just out of high school, except for some of them didn't graduate high school at all. So there are these 2 boys who have grown up together. They are friends and they come from the same like middle upper class neighborhood, in Florida, like I said. And the victim here, his name is Bobby Kent, and he comes from a family of Middle Eastern immigrants. I believe they were Iranian. So there's very much that his parents, you know, they want him to succeed. They want him to work hard and earn a good life. On the other hand, his friend, Marty, kind of, his family lives in the same neighborhood. They're probably they come from, you know, very similar financial backgrounds, although Marty's parents don't push that so much on him. So he kind of gets lost in being a teenager who has money, and he does a lot of drugs. He surfs, which, I mean, that in and of itself isn't like, you know, a bad thing. It's like that's what he does instead of, you know, living a more productive life, I guess I'm trying to say. I don't know. I feel like that whole thing right there just came out wrong. But Marty and Bobby, they're doing drugs. They are getting into steroids. Bobby gets Marty into steroids. He wants Marty to like gain weight. And they have this really weird relationship with each other where Bobby is definitely the dominant friend. He is the one who decides like what they're gonna do, when they're gonna do it. He definitely bullies Marty. He is physically abusive with Marty. So eventually Marty and Bobby meet a pair of girls who are friends. Their names are Allie and Lisa, and they kind of all get tangled up with each other, and Lisa starts dating Marty, and Lisa sees how Bobby treats Marty and decides that the best way to fix this problem is to kill Bobby. Salem has been yelling this whole time. Here's his guilty little face. I think he's starting to go senile maybe. He's getting older. He's 12 years old. Okay, he's going. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I did some of my own, well, I don't know if I should call it research, but I looked into this a little more because Bobby's family really defended him, and I could never really get if Bobby's family believed about his like weird physical stuff with his friends and with like lots of people. I mean, he would allegedly he would target mentally handicapped people. He would beat them up. There was like a man that him and Marty met, and they tried to get him to like film a porno for them, and like they beat him up, and it's just so weird. There's so many strange dynamics in here. So there, I mean, definitely would be some trigger warnings for things like rape, things like, you know, obviously taking advantage of people who don't have all their mental faculties. There's physical abuse. There's obviously murder. So I don't know, if that's not for you, definitely don't pick this up. But if this, I mean, I can't tell you how interesting I thought this book was. It was so freaking bananas. It very much, when I was in the beginning of this, it very much felt like the movie Kids, but if instead of taking place like in New York, this was like in South Florida with people who, you know, had some money. So it was really crazy. I would recommend this if you are into true crime. I surprisingly had never heard of this case before, and I don't know how, because it is, like I said, so crazy. Crazy good. Definitely read this book if you're into true crime. Number 4 on my list here was my reread of The Wicked King by Holly Black. The third and final book came out this month and I didn't get to it, so I'm really sad. I'm definitely going to read that in December if I can motivate myself to read a little more. And this is great. This was a 5-star read the second time. It leaves on this impossible cliffhanger, and man, it still got me the second time. You know, I had to reread the last chapter again, even though I'm pretty sure I did that the first time I read it too, because I'm like, how did this happen? I was so sure, and I was wrong. And this is a great kind of like, could either be young adult or adult fantasy novel with fairies and mortals, and not like floaty cute fairies, but like really tricky mean fairies. And it's been a great series so far. I'm really hoping that the third book holds up. Okay, and this is the book that I'm about halfway through. I didn't quite finish it this month. This is Ghoster by Jason Arnopp. This is a new release. He also wrote The Last Days of Jack Sparks, which was highly recommended. So, I mean, I haven't read it myself, but I've heard other people recommend it over and over. So I thought I'd pick up, you know, his newest book, and I am 200 pages into it, and I still don't know how I feel about this. I think part of that is because if it takes me too long to read anything, I don't know if it's like, am I not liking this because it's taking me so long to read, or is it taking me so long to read because I'm not really liking it? I don't really know. But it's I don't know, I feel so conflicted because on one hand, the writing is great. The main character, her name is Kate Collins. She is so cheeky and cute and funny, and I really like reading the book, but I also feel like nothing's happened, and I'm 200 pages in. And this is about Kate Collins. She meets this guy online named Scott, and things start to get serious, and he suggests that she move in with him. They both live in the UK, but they don't live very close to each other, so it's a good amount of relocation she has to do to move in with him. And the day before she's supposed to move in, he stops answering her calls and her texts. She's like, what the fuck, you know? I'm moving in here tomorrow. I've got all my stuff packed up and the moving truck is here, and still no answer from him. Eventually, she just goes over to his apartment and finds it absolutely empty, but she finds his phone like smashed on a patio. So, or maybe it's not even smashed, maybe it was just like left out there. I don't know. So, you know, she's trying to figure out where he's gone. And I feel like that's all she's been doing this whole fucking time. It's been 200 pages. I want so much to like this, but so far I don't really know. So that's Ghoster. Hopefully I need to finish it before I get on to other things, so I did also listen to quite a few audiobooks this month, actually. Part of that was because I had this really ambitious thought, like, oh, I'll try to read all the Goodreads horror nominees. And I got through some because I was able to find actually a surprising amount of them on my library's Libby. The first one I listened to this month was The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. And this was I think her thing is that she takes like fairy tales and kind of flips them upside down. So this one is about Little Red Riding Hood, kind of. Her name is Red, and she's living in like a post-apocalyptic world, and she's trying to get to her grandmother's house, of course. I don't know, I just don't know how I feel about it. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Damn it. Because some of it was interesting, but in all, I didn't think it was very spectacular, I guess. Like, it was entertaining, and I listened to the whole thing, but I'm not sure it's one that I would recommend. It was just okay. So that's that. It was narrated by January Lavoie. I'm trying to remember to talk about the narrators for these audiobooks too, because they deserve credit, because narrators can really make or break an audiobook. I listened to Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky, and this has been a very polarizing book from what I see on my own Goodreads. This was narrated by Christine Lakin, or Lakin, I don't know. And this was a big book. This was a very long audiobook. I can tell you right now, if I hadn't gotten my hands on the audiobook, if I had bought and was reading a physical copy of this book, I probably would have tossed it in the fucking trash. And I guess I should say, like, if you liked this book, I'm so glad for you, because that means you didn't waste 25 hours of your life hating this audiobook. I don't know. I didn't hate it, I guess. I can't remember what I rated it. Maybe 2 stars. I think that's what I feel like it deserves right now when I'm talking about it. I don't know. It was like this book. It's about this little boy named Christopher, and he's not a very, he has some troubles in school. Some of that is, I think, because when he was younger, his father committed suicide. There is a history of mental health problems in his family. And in the very beginning of the book, he goes missing for like 6 days or something like that, 5 or 6 days. When he comes back, he's different, and he's like smarter, and I don't know. It's like very much all a metaphor for like religion. I felt like it was very much like a Jesus, God versus the devil kind of thing, which I just like. I am an atheist, so I just don't believe in that stuff at all. I don't believe that God is real. I don't believe that Jesus was ever real. I don't believe in the devil or Satan or whatever. But I don't think it was just that, because there are other like good versus evil books that I've really liked, like The Stand. I love that book. It's one of my very favorite Stephen King books, and it felt like it was really kind of trying to be like that in its like size and its side characters that he spends a lot of time developing. It felt very much like Stephen King's, like it was trying to be like a Stephen King novel. And like, that's okay. Obviously people are influenced by people like Stephen King, because he's such a prolific, fantastic author. But I don't know. It just like wasn't, I don't know. It was long. It was boring. There was a lot of gaps where nothing much was really happening. The twists in it were predictable, and that doesn't always ruin a book for me, but in this it was like an, oh god, it's gonna be this, isn't it? And then it was that. And it was like exasperating. I really only finished it because I wanted to review it fully, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good. So those are my 2 cents. That's actually more like 20 cents. It's like my 25 cents on that book. The second to last book I want to talk about is The Invited by Jennifer MacMahon. This was also a horror nominee on Goodreads. It was narrated by Amanda Carlin and Justine Iyer. And this is a book about, it's another book where it's like a couple and they decide they want a change of pace, kind of like the Chrysalis, only they aren't really like forced into it. They decide upon it, and they are going to build a house in rural New England. I can't really remember, maybe Vermont or New Hampshire. And they find out that the piece of property they're building their house on has a lot of history. The main thing being that a woman was hung because the townspeople thought that she was a witch. and that she caused a fire at a schoolhouse that killed some of the, you know, townspeople's children. I thought this one was just okay as well. I can't remember my exact rating. I'd say 2.5 to 3 stars. This is another one that I probably wouldn't recommend, but it was okay to listen to. It was a book where people thought this lady was a witch and she wasn't really a witch. And that's not a spoiler, by the way. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. The characters, none of them were very interesting. The bad guy was foreseeably someone the author didn't want you to think it was, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it was just fine. I think that the Goodreads thing is really more of a popularity contest rather than like a contest about the quality of the books. And I think that Stephen King's gonna win because the most people have read his books. And I really wish I would have gotten to some of the smaller named nominees. I'm really kicking myself about that, but I didn't have the money to go out and buy them, and my library, you know, didn't have them. So I think that that's another thing. So that maybe books like that are never really going to win because they're not as accessible to people, which is a real shame. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. The last book I read this month was Five Dark Fates by Kendare Blake. This was narrated by Amy Landon, and I just really wanted to wrap this series up. I've been reading it since it came out, and I had some large gaps in between like the second and third book. And this is another thing I just am so tired of, is when YA series is like, this is gonna be a duology, and then after the second book you learn, oh no, this is like a 10-book deal now. And it's like they stretched a story that, you know, maybe it was a little more complex than 2 books could handle, but it wasn't necessary to make it into like, you know, more than 3 books, and yet they've done it. And I think this was a series that did that. It was an interesting idea. It's about this kingdom where there is a queen and she gives birth to triplets. One is supposed to be a poisoner, one is supposed to be an elemental, and one is supposed to be a naturalist. And it's a really interesting concept, and I liked the main characters in this book. I didn't even finish with the fucking synopsis. So, these 3, they're always 3 girls, and they're supposed to fight to the death, basically, like on their 16th birthdays. And then the one who wins becomes the next queen to give birth to triplets to, you know, do the whole cycle. We're meeting these 3 young women on the cusp of their 16th birthday in the first book, and you know that they're going to have to fight to the death, but you know that, like, obviously that doesn't, like, you just know because there's 4 books that that's not the end of it. So, I don't know. Like I said, I really liked the idea of the books, but I don't really necessarily, like, get why the plot went where it did. It very much, it was like this thing that turned into like this thing that turned into like this thing, and it's like everything from here out was just like uninteresting to me. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I don't know. That's Five Dark Fates. And that is the last book I read this month. Are you so glad that I'm done with this? I don't know. So about 8 books in total that I got through this month. I'm also currently listening to Dr. Sleep on audiobook, which I'm really enjoying. So that's been a lift in my mood. It's weird, like the physical books that I read, except for Ghoster, I'm not done with that one, so I can't really tell you, but the physical books I read this month were really good, and the audiobooks I read were not so good. So I don't know. That's it. That's all I have for you. I now need to sit down and film my haul and my December TBR, so I will be back with another video sooner than you know it. Okay, all right, thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you have any opinions. That's it. I will see you guys later.